Stillwater's Morning Scramble and Scott Petty, and we were talking movies during the break. So
yeah,
we don't have to end with that. We can start with that. He was telling me about because I was on the road. I didn't see any of the Oscars, and as far as I know, I have seen none of the films.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even recognize some of the names. I recognized the old stalwarts, Anthony Hopkins,
Yep.
Stuff like that. But I hadn't seen any of the films, I don't think. And you were telling me about a documentary you watched. We can even start with that because it's kind of an uplifting thing.
Yeah. It was. It won the Oscar. And by the way, I didn't watch the Oscars either. And my wife and daughter both try to watch all the movies within the year that they're coming out. And I think they probably did that. But my wife had heard about this Oscar. The documentary that's called My Octopus Teacher. And this guy named Craig Foster is the narrator. It's kind of all done by him. And I would really recommend it. I mean, I didn't know what to expect, and I think sometimes that's the best way to see things.
Right.
When you don't really have expectations. But one of our friends had highly recommended it, and winning an Oscar kind of says something. It's a little bit of an endorsement. I think we've all seen movies where it won an Oscar, and you're like, really? But this one was really good. But it's set off the coast of South Africa, in the kelp forest, in the water, and this guy, he documents how he has kind of left society because he's been in a really rushed professional career, and he just needs to disengage a bit, and he's overwhelmed by deadlines, and I think he's in a production type role, so I think that it was natural for him to document and video this stuff, but it was different for him because he just got really interested in this octopus that he would see at the bottom of the ocean, not that far off the coast. So he was right there.
I didn't mean to catch you. I'm also envisioning, though, a Castaway type of scenario, even though he knows he can get off of there anytime he wants.
Oh, yeah.
Is he all by himself on this place?
He's all by himself most of the time, but then there's another guy that will come and shoot video with him, so trailing behind him most of the time, but he's documenting a lot of it is just him documenting the movements of this octopus and how it feeds and how it sleeps, because it's supposed to be nocturnal and does most of its hunting at night, and he kind of documented that a little bit, but it's really about the intertwining of relationships and building trust with this octopus, and he reaches his hand out at some point after the octopus and he are both quite nervous, and the octopus puts its legs out, and it's got 2,000 of these little sensors on the 8 legs of this octopus, and it was just a pretty amazing documentary.
And they bonded then, right?
They bonded through that, and so the octopus would trust that here comes my human friend, as he would describe himself. And anyway, he's now founded the Sea Change Project, and it's worth the watch. But it really documents how it eats, how it lives. It fights off a shark. It's really an interesting documentary. I would highly recommend it. It was well worth the hour and a half or whatever, however long it was. It wasn't 2 hours.
You said it's on Netflix, right?
It's on Netflix.
Okay, because I'd never heard of it.
Yeah, I never had either. But it's well worth the watch, and I don't watch a lot of documentaries. I mean, we talked about the music stuff, and I'm always interested in that. But this was cool. I mean, I'll probably watch more documentaries now because you always learn something as well.
The one thing, and we didn't either one watch the Oscars, and I know ratings are down, and people like to pounce on that, but give me a break. I mean, nobody went to the movies all year.
Right, right, exactly. Haven't been in a theater in over a year. Yeah.
But and ratings are down for everything. They just were divided up more. But the one thing it does do, just like any award show, is it introduces things to people. Even if you didn't see it, you can read it, just like what you're saying. Yeah. Because that went from your wife's friends to Jerry to you to me to on the air, and there'll be people look it up now.
Yeah.
So I mean, not that we're going to catapult into that, but I'll probably watch it. Sure.
Yeah, it was really interesting, and the guy does a great job. And he also he intertwines in his son's relationship with him, and how as a dad he's realizing he needs to be more patient with his family relationships and listen, and it just It was good. It was really good.
You know, when you were talking about relationships, because I mean, the relationships right now are strained in many cases because we're polarized and everything. And it does remind you of the fact that if you were alone on an island, with you'd probably get along with a lot of people you can't stand right now.
Yeah.
And also the people that you do like, after a while on the island, you wouldn't like them so much. So it works vice versa, doesn't it?
Yeah,
so,
it does. It does.
Anyway, that sounds good. So
hope you get to sit.
Yeah. So I asked you when you came in. I said, "What's on your plate?" That's what I always do because we want to make sure you get your stuff out there. But article in the news press a couple of days ago or over the weekend. I'm not sure. I saw it yesterday.
Yep.
That
it was in the weekend edition.
Yeah. And then we talk about the healthcare, which who knew healthcare was complicated was saying a little while ago, and we're still battling over this. And it seems like the governor is almost on an island to himself right now. Is that correct or not?
Well, it does look that way. I mean, certainly the Republicans and Democrats, I believe, from what I've read and from what I've seen, agree that Medicaid expansion should occur and probably doesn't need to be managed care. Certainly the physicians, the hospital administration, the hospital association, again, which includes all hospitals, large metropolitan hospitals and small town hospitals, they all agree that managed care is a bad idea. These private companies will take 10 to 15% a profit, where right now we pay 4 to 5% for our state to run it. Granted, it has its problems, and it hasn't probably been run as efficiently or it's probably been run about as efficiently as it could be with the dollars that are allocated for it. But managed care, I think the bottom line is this, and it was in that article. It was a very nice article in the Stillwater News Press. Denise was interviewed, our CEO, Denise Weber. But it talks about how basically managed care companies, these private companies like Centene, it's a St. Louis-based company, highest paid CEO in healthcare right now. Over $25 million a year this guy is paid. He's the highest paid CEO in St. Louis. Yeah. But he's the president of Centene, and Centene is one of those companies that will be contracting to do our managed care in the state of Oklahoma. There are several companies that are going to do it. But basically, they get to make up to 15%, and once they get to a point where they've spent all the money, they can start predetermine this pot of money, medical equipment, ambulance runs, mental health counseling, surgeries. They can deny that stuff just so they can still make a profit. And the president of the Oklahoma Hospital Association, Jay Johnson, who used to be one of our vice presidents here at Stillwater Medical, he's the president this year. He's the CEO down at Duncan Regional, but he was quoted as kind of explaining that here's now a private entity that's proposed to manage this Medicaid program that the citizens of Oklahoma said, yes, we need to do this for our citizens. It'll add 200,000 people, mostly women and children, single women and children that can't afford insurance. It'll add them into the model of care. So now they have health insurance, because those are the people that oftentimes ends up coming to our ER, and that is the most expensive care that you can have. And so we need to do our best to care for them before they get to a point of, because oftentimes when somebody comes to the ER, they've got more than one or two problems. They've got a heart condition, they just happen to have an injury, and now it's complicated. And they're going to have to see more than one or two or three doctors. But when you go to the ER, it's the most expensive care you can get. So anyway, we've got to really encourage our representatives and senators that this is outsourcing it is not the way to go. Outsourcing it to managed care is not the way to go.
So would you recommend emailing our local representatives?
Absolutely.
Because I think
absolutely.
The ones
I think for the most part, our representatives understand that, but I do think they want to hear from you. I think they want to be able to say, hey, 90% of the people that interacted about this topic said they do not want managed care. So we need to encourage those folks. Now, granted, if they don't, as long as it doesn't go to the governor, because the governor has already said what he's going to do. I mean, they've put this plan together which is not a good plan for Oklahoma.
When he said, I think it was 42 states, is that accurate at all?
I think there's 40. Yeah, I think there's 40 is what I heard. But yeah,
40 states that do this?
40 states that have this kind of model. Yeah.
Okay.
But and we don't know. So many of them did it back in the early stage. I bet you if you ask them, like we did it back in the early 2000s, and it was a failure. I mean, it did not work well. And I bet if you ask them if they could go back and change it, I bet a lot of them would.
See, that's what
we should learn from that.
I was wondering, one, whether it was true or not. That's how skeptical you get at times, if that's even a fact. And two, let's talk to those folks.
Yeah.
I mean, if it really is a glowing endorsement, bring them out.
Yeah.
I haven't seen them, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't speak to that.
Yeah.
I just know that it's a bad idea. It will cost our hospital millions. It will cost Stillwater Medical Center millions, and to our bottom line, and it will close other rural hospitals, which will put more pressure on metro hospitals and hospitals like Stillwater Medical.
Right, because we've absorbed several around here, and we're thankful the Blackwell and places like that are doing okay, but that's not the case in some areas, right?
Right, and I mean, as you said, I mean, other states, we've been seeing hospital closures for the last 10 years, right. Even though Medicaid expansion has been in the marketplace for the last 10 years. We're just now getting to the game. How many billions did we pass up? Yeah, of course we're 49th in healthcare right now because we've been saying for 10 years we don't want your federal dollars that you pay in, that you and I pay in. So we've now said, okay, we're accepting the Medicaid expansion. It's a good thing. We do not need managed care.
There you go. So I'm going to get a brief break, okay. And then we'll dive into some more. But well
Sounds
said.
Good.
I appreciate you going there. So
yeah, you bet.
Because it is a little complex.
It is.
And you can go online and read that article, by the way. That's where I saw it when I got back here. So I wasn't sure what day it was in there.
Yeah, it was from the weekend edition.
Okay.
Yeah.
So check out the Stillwater News Press if you want to hear what
front page story.
Yeah. What CEO Denise Weber had to say.